Hey guys, so today we are shopping at the Dollar Tree. This is one of my favorite stores to look for just random crap for cheap that I need on the homestead, especially for my chickens. One of my favorite sections in here is the medical supplies. For those of you who don't know, I'm an RN, so 99% of the injuries that occur with our animals, we're able to treat ourselves. So I like to have a pretty good stockpile ready to go. So let's go inside and see what they've got. So we are back home now, and I was actually able to get quite a bit of cool stuff. So the first thing I went for were some plastic buckets. On the farm, there's no such thing as having too many buckets. It seems like we're always losing them. They're always breaking. So I grabbed a couple of them, but these I specifically bought because we are going to start fermenting our chicken feed to see how that works out for us. So I grabbed 3 so we could start a 3-day rotation for the fermented feed. And to go along with the fermented feed, I also got these scoop things. They look a lot like kitty litter scoops, but they were actually in the kitchen section. So I figured just the holes and the large size that this would be good for scooping the fermented feed whenever it's ready to feed. Other things I like to have tons of just laying around are scrub brushes. I like to leave these right next to the spigots. That way, anytime I have a gross water bowl, I can just very quickly scrub it out and rinse it, and it's good to go. So they have these in the cleaning section, and then over in the baby section, they have these type of bottle scrubbers. These are great for if you have rabbits, to scrub out the water bottles for the rabbits. And going along with the brush theme, a nail brush for after you've been digging in the garden and your fingernails look disgusting. These are always nice to have. Some of you might know that we breed and sell chickens and chicks. And so I like to have these types of shallow and wide pans. And I use these to feed our grow outs whenever they're kind of in between that tiny chick size and the adult size. This way they're not all crowded around a tiny bowl, and they're able to get to it pretty easy because it's shallow. These next 2 things were probably what I was most excited about to find today. The first one is stainless steel dog bowls, and these are pretty decent size. It looks like they are 52 ounces, but they're stainless. These are expensive at Tractor Supply too, so I snagged 3 of these. This is just something that it's nice to always have on hand. You never know when you're gonna have to separate a chicken or a cat or something, and you're gonna need separate food and water bowls for them. So I always like to keep these on hand. It's also nice to have kind of a rotation, so while one's getting cleaned and the other one's being used, you always got plenty. Also in the pet section, I found these little automatic waterers, and I was actually really excited to find these. I had never seen them at a Dollar Tree before. So these hold a quart of water. And as you can see, the bowl part is actually really shallow. So what I'm gonna use these for is chick waterers. Right now we have 4 Black East Indy ducklings that we're hatching and more on the way. And I think these would just be great little duck waterers. They're not too deep, but they're deep enough to where the ducks can dip their bill in. And again, I just like to have multiple waterers because I'm constantly scrubbing out and bleaching stuff. And those little chick waterers at Tractor Supply are like $5. So to be able to get these for only $1, that's pretty good. And also in the pet section, I found this plastic scoop. Again, something that I'm just constantly losing and leaving everywhere just for feed. These are kind of expensive if you go to Tractor Supply, so I was excited to grab one of them. One of my favorite sections of the Dollar Tree is their organization containers. And over there, I found this little guy. It's got a handle. There's a couple things I'd like to do with it. My first thought was gathering goose eggs with it because my little metal egg bucket, it holds like 2 goose eggs. So I figured this would actually be able to hold the more than one that I gather. And also during gardening season, I thought it'd be nice to use this to gather my tomatoes. And that way I can just rinse them off right in this, and they can just dry off in it as well. I bought a container off of Amazon for that purpose, and it was almost $30. So to be able to get this for only $1, I think it'll work just as well. So the next thing I got were just staples on our farm. Good old generic Dawn and bleach. This is what I clean almost everything with. Being a nurse, I love me a good bleaching. The only thing I don't use bleach on are my galvanized waters though, because they do cause it to corrode. But I like bleach. It kills everything. It's reliable and it's cheap. And Dawn, it just washes everything. So it's always good to have plenty on hand. The next thing I found over in the container section was this good sized little container here. The lid isn't super airtight, but what I'm gonna use this for is to store my seeds from this year so I can use them again next year. And my main concern with that is just keeping water out. And so this is gonna work just fine. I just like the size of it. Honestly, there's probably cheaper Tupperware containers like this at places like Walmart, but I like the size of this one, so I went ahead and picked it up. And the last bag is a big old bag of medical supplies. I always like grabbing these cheap fabric Band-Aids. I like to use these for treating splayed legs on my hatchlings. Triple antibiotic ointment. You can never have too much of this stuff. At Dollar Tree, they also have a really good selection of gauze. So this is rolled gauze, and then this is like gauze pads. I like these size of rolled gauze just because I tend to use them as a one-use thing, even if there's a little bit left over, just because it tends to get dirty as you're wrapping the animal. And to wrap the gauze, I like using this waterproof tape, especially if you're wrapping like bumblefoot on a chicken. You want really good tape because it just falls right off anything that's in contact with the ground. They also had alcohol, so I went ahead and grabbed a container of it. You don't want to use alcohol on open wounds. It'll actually damage the tissue. But what I use it for is I'll put it on a cotton pad to prep an area before I give it an injection, whether it's a vaccine or an antibiotic, just to disinfect the spot before the needle goes in. And speaking of bumblefoot, they also carry just plain old Epsom salts. I like to use this just to soak the foot before we cut into it to get the bumblefoot out. You can also use Epsom salt in the garden, but this is only 16 ounces. So for garden use, you'd probably want a bigger container, but just for the occasional chicken use, this is perfect size for me. This is a 100 pack of disposable gloves. Anytime you're messing with a wound or an infection with an animal, it's always good to wear gloves that are super cheap that you can just use once and toss. Bumblefoot is a staph infection, so you definitely don't want that on your hands. And lastly, I just grabbed some petroleum jelly. What I like to use it for is just to keep a wound from sticking to the gauze. That way, whenever you go to change the bandage, it doesn't rip off all of the healed tissue. And it can also provide some protection from like flies. A few honorable mentions would be just about anything in this organization section. I own tons of these containers just to organize anything and everything. And these boxes in particular, I thought that they were pretty good size. And if you have bantam chickens and you needed some cheap nesting boxes, I think they would be just about the right size for that. And I actually just bought some tiny zip ties just like these, but I use these as leg bands for my chicks in order to identify my different batches. I also own several of these dish pans. I drilled some holes in the bottom and I use them to grow fodder. So yeah guys, that was my Dollar Tree haul. I think I did pretty well. They had quite a few things that were helpful for here on the farm. So comment down below and let me know what you like to buy at Dollar Tree. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe and give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.